Hello, and welcome to this current look at the astrological conditions of April 24th, 2019. So give me just a moment or two to get that up here, including changing that lighting. One moment. So we haven't done one of these kinds of streams in a while, so I thought we were due for one. Plus, it just seemed like the best thing to do today. And so just like previous times, we will spend a good amount of the time looking at the overall astrological conditions, but the thing that we'll do differently this time is with Pluto just having gone retrograde literally hours ago, we will be spending a significant amount of time, at least I hope so, analyzing that and talking about that. Hey there, Ryan. Hey there, Valeria. Good to see you showing up so soon as I'm just sort of getting things set up still. Okay, the audio's good. So yeah, for those who aren't familiar with this, it's really like looking at the astrological weather, the stuff that is affecting the entire human race right now. Like this won't be, looking at or doing like readings for any signs or anything for any particular sign, but really it is applicable to everyone of all signs. So hopefully we'll go for like a good hour or so here, maybe longer. I don't know yet. We'll see. But I'll start off by first looking at the current astrology, and then we'll get to the specific Pluto retrograde, which is very significant once I'm done doing that. Okay, so I'm almost done setting up here. Yes, Pluto went retrograde. I can just sort of give a little preview right now as I finish it up in the sign of Capricorn, where it's been for forever. It's been there since the end of 2008. Let's see. I'm live looking at the current astrology and Pluto just having gone retrograde hours ago. So, of course, Capricorn is the sign of government and authority and discipline and power in that sense. Although I almost hesitate to associate or to sort of emphasize power too much, because if you want to talk the sign of power, that's really much more Scorpio's domain. But Capricorn also talks about power as well. And speaking of Scorpio, for those who don't know, Pluto rules Scorpio. So when you think about what is this energetic mix sort of going to be like? Well, an oversimplification would be mix the energy of Scorpio with the energy of Capricorn. That would be an oversimplification. So you had good timing, friend. Excellent. Happy to hear that, Ryan. All right, so without further ado, we shall begin. Just get the astrology window open in front of me. Okay, so I can still see the chat, but I can no longer see myself. But that's okay. So currently, of course, starting with the basics, the sun is in the sign of Taurus. It is now Taurus season. It's at 4:30 of Taurus. And that just started days ago. Now, just 2 days ago, of course, we had the Sun-Uranus conjunction. So if anyone out there has experienced sudden, shocking events or revelations, realizations, insights, sudden, shocking developments of any kind in the past 2 days, especially, well, past couple of days, but especially about 2 days ago, that is likely why. Sun-Uranus conjunction, it's an annual event when the sun lines up with Uranus. And literally you can expect the unexpected. Now, that of course occurred in the sign of Taurus, as I mentioned. Uranus just having recently re-entered Taurus, where it will be for the next approximately 7 years. So, it's in it for the long haul. I was going to do this before. I was going to do a stream specifically about Uranus having entered Taurus, but then that sort of got away from me, and now it's been there again for well over a month now. But maybe at some point we still will do that. We'll take a look at specifically Uranus and Taurus and what that means for all of us. But anyway, so rains diamonds on Uranus. And hey there, Lumen. Little bunny rabbit. Yeah, we just had Easter. Yeah, hope everyone had a good Easter. Jeez, I forgot all about that, you gods. But anyway, so we're all sort of indeed coming off of that annual Sun-Uranus conjunction right now, sort of recovering from the explosiveness of it, perhaps. And moving on to the moon, that's the sun now. Where's the moon? The moon is currently in Capricorn at 12:53. Actually, let me just refresh this here. Make that 12:55 of Capricorn. And so, we're in this rather serious mood or serious mode right now, mood and mode coming from the word moon, relating to the moon. And what else can be said about that? Reality setting in, things being very down to earth and practical and logical. Of course, for those of you who perhaps are very new to astrology or unfamiliar with astrology, that will of course shift in, day and a half, 2 days when the moon moves into Aquarius. The moon is the fastest moving object in the sky. And so that's what's much more relevant to our day-to-day, hour-to-hour, minute-to-minute developments, as opposed to the other objects, which are more long-term. The sun, of course, again, I'm speaking very elementary stuff here, but just in case anyone watches this who is new to astrology, the sun, of course, takes a year to go around, and so it thus therefore spends about a month in each sign, and so the energy shifts significantly with the sun about every month. And then, of course, you have the inner planets that kind of travel usually alongside the sun, especially Mercury and Venus. Mars can get, out there. Mars is a little bit of an exception to that rule. And then the outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, they, of course, are going to be wherever they're going to be. So let's see here. Where should we go next? New to astrology, this duck. Well, I'm happy I can hopefully clarify things then. Hello there, still standing. Crab nebulae of it. Yes. Actually, I'm not sure I know what that means, but so where shall we go next? Speaking of the inner planets, Mercury is now in Aries. Finally, it just recently got out of that sort of labyrinthine, nebulous mist, that extended stay, that extended, dreamy, nebulous, perhaps a bit neurotic stay in the sign of Pisces due to its retrograde. It kept Mercury in Pisces for over 2 months. But now, at long last, Mercury has moved into Aries. And again, for those who don't know, it is highly unusual for Mercury to stay in the same sign for over 2 months. It's almost unheard of. But as a result of that, ever since, let's see, do I have it in front of me? Hang on. Oh, right. I basically had that date pretty much memorized. Okay. Ever since April 17th, our thoughts, Mercury, have finally shifted to ones that are of much more clarity. Mercury in Pisces is great for, dreams and creativity and any kind of art, stuff like that. But Mercury in Pisces can also be very confusing and can cloud one's mental abilities. And so, and sort of like, I don't know, Mercury can almost be lost in Pisces. But so now that Mercury is in Aries, things have clarified in the last approximately, I guess, 7-8 days. Things have clarified significantly for all of us, again, generally speaking. And with the Aries energy, it's also adding great impulsivity to our thought processes and our communication. A great spontaneity. My view counter just went down to 0. Hopefully that's not actually accurate. I don't think everyone would just leave at once. But but a great impulsivity. Aries is the sign of my way or the highway. Aries is the sign of I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do it fast. I'm going to be number one, this sort of thing. And so Mercury, which talks about our thoughts and our communication, has taken on that kind of energy. And we're now thinking much faster, much more on inspiration, much more actively. But of course, as with any sign, that can have a good side and a bad side. That has advantages and disadvantages. So just like when Mercury was in Pisces, it had the advantage of being great for creativity, but the disadvantage of being confusing and what's the word I'm looking for? Like confusing and mystifying and all this stuff. Mercury in Aries has the advantage of having us think much faster and certainly more clearer than when it was in Pisces, but it has the disadvantage of perhaps being too impulsive or maybe even being too aggressive with our words. Talking before thinking would be a significant risk of Mercury in Aries. And also, I would argue only thinking about oneself because, like, no offense to any Aries people out there, like, Aries is great, but a disadvantage or challenge with that sign is the idea of being very self-centered. I mean, it's the first sign of the zodiac. Aries is essentially me, me, mine, everything that is about my domain, and I've got to be number one. And it's like the Aries is like the newborn baby in a sense that in its reality all that exists is itself. Now again, I'm not I'm not wanting to make Aries sound like they're bad in any way. Every single zodiac sign has something that you could sort of attack them for. You could verbally attack them for it. You could argue is bad about them or whatever. So I'm just bringing this up to explain the energy. You said it, man. Okay, good. Lumen, at least you're still here. Like, I don't know what's going on. Now it says one person is here. I don't think everyone would just have left all at once. I don't know. Type in the chat if you're here, please, if you will. So let's see. 3 in your counter. Okay, good. That's very strange. Give me just a moment here. I'm going to sort of multitask. Then we'll talk about Venus, who is also in Aries. So I guess I can sort of be in that. So Venus had a bit of a stay in Pisces as well, sort of trailing just behind Mercury now. Yeah, that's weird. I pulled this up in my I don't know what the technical name is, but the videos or streams page on YouTube. Yeah, it says all of a sudden just one live viewer. Well, thank you, Lumen, for staying with me. At least you're still here. But maybe, I don't know, maybe other people had technical difficulties or something. Who knows? Anyway, at least I'm not all alone. So Venus in Pisces, when we had that for a while, a number of weeks, that's very like sweet and dreamy and nice, delicious energy. Venus basically likes being in Pisces. It's a really good match. Venus does not rule Pisces. Venus rules Taurus and Libra, but Pisces is a really nice place for, sweet, loving, beautiful Venus. Aries, however, not exactly where Venus prefers to be. However, Venus can certainly get along well enough in Aries. Venus in Aries is like, geez, how do I put this? When Venus goes into Aries, she goes from being all sweet and nice and dreamy, like she was in Pisces, and just she goes from being, I guess, as sweet as she normally is to now being more of like, I don't know, sort of the badass kind of feminine energy. Let's see, how did I was watching excuse me, my throat. I was watching astrologer Rick Levine one time, and I'm trying to remember how he put it when he was describing Venus in Aries. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, he said something like Venus in Aries has gone from wearing her usual beautiful cashmere and elegant clothes that she, I guess, more or less wore when in Pisces, to now like the leather pants and, the sort of like badass outfit, and she's going to where the action is. She's going to I don't know, the local bar or local wherever the hell the action is, and she's ready for action is the meaning. And so that, of course, is affecting all of us. And Venus talks about our love life, our social life, and also our money. So to hopefully make this even clearer, if what I just said didn't make it clear enough, Venus in Aries now, when it comes to those areas of our life, social life, love life, and money, we're ready for action. We are ready to push forward. We're ready perhaps for some aggression as well. Venus in Aries. And that, of course, just happened 4 days ago when Venus entered Aries, and she'll be there. Do I have it in front of me? No, I do not. But she'll be there for a number of weeks. Let me see if I can just find it real quick. Yes, she'll be there till about May 15th. So we can expect that sort of aggressive, action-oriented energy in those areas of our lives until about that time. Then she moves into Taurus and things slow down, become more stable, and by then we'll probably be very thankful that Venus has entered Taurus, as well as any other Taurian energy. Let's see. Back from ordering pizza. Welcome back, Ryan. I'm down and dirty. Yeah. Sandy at the end of Greece. I mean, I haven't I've seen like clips of Greece, I guess, but I think so. Yes. I think that would be an accurate statement. I'm pretty sure it would be. All right. So with that clarified, let's move on to Mars. As soon as I can sort of check on a couple things here. Okay. So Mars has been in the sign of Gemini for a bit, and Mars in Gemini is like full of energy as usual, full of a desire to take action, but can often not quite be sure where to go or wants to go in all directions at once. Gemini is very like active, curious, perhaps in some cases even flighty energy, wants to do so many different things. Well, when Mars enters Gemini, our desire to take action, our motivations become, we want to do so many different things at once. And I don't know about you guys, but I have definitely felt this in my own life. I keep having all these ideas of like things I'd like to do and like projects that I wish I could start. and there's just not enough time in a day for me, and certainly not enough energy in my body on a day-to-day basis to carry these sorts of things out. I mean, like, I would have to have like two more of me. There'd have to be like three of me to do all the different things that, I've been wanting to do ever since Mars entered Gemini, pretty much. Let me see if I can pull up real quick when that was specifically. Let's see, closing in on it. Yes, ever since March 31st, Mars entered Gemini. See, when Mars was in Taurus before that, Mars doesn't really like being in Taurus, but it's a much more stable place for Mars because, well, Taurus is a stable place for anything. When Mars was in Taurus, it may have been harder for Mars and thus therefore harder for our action and motivation aspects of our lives. But we really got stuff done then. We stuck through to things. We persisted in that Taurian energy. Now that Mars is in Gemini, we no longer feel so weighed down. So that's a positive. We're getting all kinds of ideas and inspirations and things that we want to do. But the disadvantage to that is it can be easy to try to do way too much at once and also not even be sure where exactly we should place our efforts and attention. And so that continues to be an ongoing challenge. And that is actually made even worse currently by this incoming Mars-Neptune square. Mars currently at 16 of Gemini, being about to square Neptune at 17 of Pisces, but let's just see when that perfects. April 27th, 9:03 a.m. Eastern Time, Mars at 17 of Gemini, squaring Neptune at 17 of Pisces. That energy in particular, so especially that day, the 27th of this month, can make it very difficult to tell just where we want to act and just what we want to do, because Neptune is all about shrouding things in illusion and nebulousness. Mars in a difficult aspect, that being a square to Neptune, is like, well, Mars wants to act, but Neptune is making it very difficult, maybe almost impossible to know where to act or what specific action to take or whatever. So yeah, I mean, things might be rather confusing over the next few days, but we've been through aspects like this before. We'll get through them again. So let's see. Sometimes it's a bit annoying, other times it's great. You mean like Mars and Gemini getting a lot of ideas at once, or just the idea of getting a lot of ideas at once? Yeah, it can. I like mental activity, but yeah, it can also be kind of overwhelming. One time I spelled sometimes for no, and I'll see what they would say. I said how to pronounce so. Yes, you said, well, some people say so. It's a mean trap, I know. I've never even heard of that. So I don't know. Reminds me of my cat's name. I'm actually drinking coffee right now. The doctor said I could have coffee again. So, whoa. I guess, I don't know. Anyway, I've got to be careful though. I can't be drinking too much of this stuff. It's going to fuck me up. But anyway, so another really significant thing right now, and I want to mention this before I forget, because this is so important, what I'm about to tell you, or at least I think it is. So currently, and this ties into the Pluto retrograde today, Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn are now as close as they're going to get before January of 2020. before that ominous, dreaded Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn in January of 2020, January 11th, in fact, 111. So what does this mean? Here, this is so... This is probably one of the most important things I'm going to say in this entire stream for all of us and what it means in our individual lives. This is what this means. What we see now here in the month of April is a preview of what we are going to get in a much larger dose in January of 2020 and probably throughout basically all of next year, all of 2020. We are seeing now in April a small dose of what we're going to get the full dosage of, and believe me when I say we're going to get the full freaking dosage of it in January of 2020. You know, Saturn, Pluto, this only happens every 30 some years. Like, I am not joking around here. In January of 2020, you know, the shit's going to hit the fan, as they say. Like January 11th, perhaps that date, especially right around then, but really that whole month, hell, the whole freaking year, I would say. You know, whatever has gone around that needs to come around is going to come around in January of 2020. And we're seeing a preview of it now in this month of April. So mark my freaking words. You know, the conjunction is the single most powerful aspect in astrology, and Saturn and Pluto are two of the most powerful planets in astrology. When they get together, especially in the sign of Capricorn, you know, a sign of government and banking and authority and all this stuff, you better believe we're going to see the sparks fly, or we're going to see transformation on an epic scale in January of 2020. And again, probably all next year. So yeah, glad I made that clear. So moving on, let's see what else the current conditions hold. And then we will indeed look at Pluto more specifically here pretty soon once we're done looking at this other stuff. I want to go back to Venus for a moment because there's another significant issue or development with Venus that we did not yet go over, and that is that just yesterday, in fact, Venus aligned with wounded healer Chiron in Aries. And so what we're sort of coming off of right now, I mean, they're still pretty much conjunct, but not exactly. Venus is moving right along away from Chiron now, but we're coming off of this strong emphasis on our inner wounds and also the healing of those wounds. And so if you've seen significant activity in your own life around that, yesterday especially, but just the last couple of days, even today, that is why, you know, we had the Venus-Chiron conjunction. But I mean, I would say this is a much easier aspect when it comes to anything aligning with Chiron, because Venus is, generally speaking, much easier energy to work with. You know, Venus blesses everything that she touches. Venus is sweet and loving and caring and that sort of thing. So just mentioning that, yes, it happened yesterday, and so it's kind of fading away now, but regardless, it's significant. It's important to understand that is what happened. So let's see. It is like I'm a teacher in front of a class and students chatting at desks. Yeah, it's funny, but unlike that, I'm all for people exercising their freedom to do as they will. I think if you want to listen to me and chat at the same time, I'm all for it. Be free. It's my Uranian energy coming out. So let's see what next. Let's take a look at Jupiter just briefly. So Jupiter, of course, has been in Sagittarius since late last year, is in November of 2018, and Jupiter's home sign of Sagittarius. And so I'm not going to talk too much about this because we've been over it before, but Jupiter did just go retrograde not that long ago. And again, I'm going to try to see if I can pull that up real quick. When was that? Looks like it was on or about April 10th that Jupiter went retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius, its home sign. So this is something that we're probably slowly feeling more and more. I mean, my strongest theory about retrogrades is that when they happen, the energy around that planet gets stronger, the signal gets louder. Well, Jupiter is the planet of optimism and inspiration and beliefs and knowledge and philosophy and metaphysics and theology and positive thinking and expansion and faith. It's like Jupiter is the planet of beliefs as opposed to facts. Jupiter is the planet of ideas as opposed to implementing those ideas. I think that would still be accurate within certain limits, but Jupiter is all about that optimism, and we can do it and stuff like that. And so we are getting a bit of a stronger signal in that area. And of course, again, that's in the sign of Sagittarius, its home sign. And so if things are slowly feeling more optimistic recently overall, well, I would say that that's why. And we'll continue, of course, feeling this for months to come. And Jupiter will go direct again eventually and finally enter Capricorn around the end of this year. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can say about that. No, I think we'll just leave that at that. Like looking for significant aspects, but if there are any that are going to happen soon, they're not coming to mind. All right, so of course, Saturn remains in Capricorn, as we mentioned. Uranus remains in Taurus, as we mentioned. Neptune remains in Pisces, as we mentioned. And then we finally come to Pluto in Capricorn. So the other outer planets I'm not going to talk a lot about because we've talked about them enough before. Instead, I think it is now time that we take a closer look at this Pluto retrograde and what it means for all of us. So, I'm going to pull up some information on the internet about it. There's no real need for me to give a summary of it because my knowledge of Pluto retrograde is actually quite basic and limited at this time. So it's much better if we just go right to the experts. I'll be learning right along with everyone else here. So let's see. I'm glad people are stopping in and liking the stream, but then they leave. So I don't know what to think about that, but oh well. Let's see. Okay, let's see what this site has to say. This chat is chaos, don't mind us poetic. Oh, I don't mind whatsoever. I would much rather see an active chat than an inactive chat, almost regardless of what is happening in the chat. As long as it's not like offensive or anything to anyone. All right, so this is from elsa.com. And it also mentions the Saturn retrograde, which why the hell not look at that too right now? The Saturn and Pluto retrograde, because Saturn is going retrograde very soon as well, in just 5 days, by the way. So we're going to see even more retrograde activity as we usually do around this time of year. So we're going to start with this. We'll read and analyze it. Remember, anyone has any comments or questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll be happy to do my best to answer them. So, Saturn and Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, April 2019, falling back. Pluto will turn retrograde on April 24th at 23 degrees of Capricorn. Think about falling back for real and deeply. That sentence is awkward on purpose. Here you are slogging through the mud. You may even be stuck something more akin to a sewer. Now you're supposed to fall back into it. There is nothing comfortable about it. Less than a week later, on April 29th, Saturn will turn retrograde at 20 degrees of Capricorn. If you thought you were going to be able to stand your ground, this will be the 2 in the 1-2 punch. Many people will be knocked down. This reminds me of Joseph Campbell's quote, "If you're falling, dive." But when I read that quote, I think of some graceful swan dive. In this case, we're talking about something a lot more gritty and dark. If you have Capricorn in your chart, as I do indeed, you're probably familiar with the concept of being punch drunk. It's the point where you've been hit so many times you can't feel it anymore. Literally me. I have a lot of experience with this, both literal and figurative. When it happens to me today, I dive in one way or that sentence literally ends right there, and that's weird. I leave the dam to ring at my earliest opportunity. Now that I have sufficiently scared everyone, let me state clear. I am Saturn positive. Once you've hit the deck, either by your own action or in reaction to some blow from the outside, it's not as if nothing good comes from it. I made this clear with this post. Okay, then they give a link to another post. Yeah, let me explain something to people as well here. So we're talking Pluto and Saturn both going retrograde. Well, for me personally, not only is this a year of my Saturn return, Saturn in Capricorn, in fact, Sun conjunct Saturn in Capricorn, but Pluto is also transiting my Mercury point this year. So transforming my mind and communication forevermore. You know, Pluto is power and can make one prone to obsessions. And in this case, when Pluto's over my Mercury, obsessive thoughts and, powerful communication, all or nothing communication. So if I seem a little crazy in my communication, that's why. Pluto is all over my Mercury this year, and Saturn is all over my Sun-Saturn conjunction this year. I mean, and January 11th of 2020, that Saturn, that ominous Saturn-Pluto conjunction I mentioned earlier, it's right over my Mercury point. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I hope I survive. Just so you know, that's what's happening with me personally with this astrological activity. All right, let's see. Pluto retrograde on April 24th at 23 degrees. That's, of course, what we had today. Pluto direct on October 3rd at 20 degrees. Okay, so October 3rd of this year, it'll go direct. Saturn retrograde on April 29th at 20 degrees. Saturn direct on September 18th at 13 degrees. Yeah, so as with any retrograde, there's also, remember, this idea of revisiting area already covered, So when it comes to both Saturn things, authority, discipline, structure, work, order, and Pluto things, transformation, the unconscious, power, all things dark and scary, perhaps one could say, expect a review in the coming months of what we have already experienced in those areas in the recent months. All right, let's see. Wait, what's going on? You're officially an administrator for the Alberta Satanic Temple chapter. Ooh, congratulations, Ryan. That's a very Saturnian thing indeed. All right, so let's see. I recommend you focus on Saturn because the issues that arise under Saturn transits are generally something you can control in some way to at least some degree. If you have planets in cardinal signs between 12 to 25 degrees, you'll be most affected. I'm one of these people. You? Oh, dear God. Between 12 and 20. Yes, I'm one of those people. Neptune, the Sun, Saturn, and Mercury, all between 12 and 25 degrees of Capricorn in my chart. I mean, dear God, I'm in for it. All right, so it looks like that's all for that website. So I just want to reiterate here, though, as far as the Pluto retrograde specifically is concerned, remember, Pluto deals with the area of life that is powerful, unconscious, dark, perhaps even mysterious, like the sign Scorpio that it rules. Pluto is related to the word plutocracy. So take that into consideration. All of these areas of life, the signal around them is getting louder in the coming months. There's a subtle shift, a subtle but powerful shift happening today from Pluto in that area of life. So there you go. My coffee is like meaning mixed together, and I'm like trying to mix it together. Actually, this coffee, drinking all of it's getting the better of me. Before we move on, I need to use the bathroom. So I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Okay, I have returned. So let us continue to burn and observe the significance of Pluto going retrograde in Capricorn. Oh my God, I sneezed. All right then. Apparently I need to take more Flonase. So before we continue, since we have Lumen and Ryan here, a Virgo and Gemini, I'm just going to mention real quick the areas of life that the Pluto and Saturn retrograde will affect based on your sun signs, because why not? So let's see, I guess I'll go in the order of the zodiac. So Gemini, then Virgo. So now I'm not, some expert astrologer who does this all the time. So give me one moment. I need to calculate this. So for Gemini, that would be taking place in your, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th house. So interestingly enough, Pluto rules the 8th house. So for you, Ryan, you can expect shifts in 8th house matter, 8th house of secrets, taxes, business and other people's money, death and rebirth, that sort of thing. Shifts in that area of life. And as for you, Lumen, let's see here, Virgo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth house of love, fun, romance, and sex. Also, our legacy, our children. I believe the fifth house can also have to do with teaching. You can expect powerful shifts and developments in any or all of those areas of your life, those fifth house areas. So now, since I sneezed, I need a Kleenex, so I will be right back again. Dear God, what have I done? Okay. I don't think I'm going to sneeze anymore. I think I'm good. What's happening? Sorry, back with my pizza. Ooh, pizza. I wish I could have some of that right now. All right, so now that we've done that, we're just going to proceed right along here and dive deeper into this Pluto retrograde. Well, I guess we can check out this next site, i.thehoroscope.co, though I have to question its validity and accuracy, at least somewhat, because it says planets in retrograde in the title, and you're not supposed to say in retrograde, you're supposed to just say retrograde. But whatever, let's take a look. Or maybe it's more if you say a specific planet, you're supposed to just say that planet retrograde. I don't know. It drives me crazy. Like whenever I hear someone say, like, Mercury in retrograde, like, isn't Mercury in retrograde? It's like, no, that's incorrect. It's Mercury retrograde. Sorry, guys, this coffee is making me crazy because I don't normally get to consume this much caffeine as of late, so I'm not used to it. So if I seem a little weird right now, that's why. All right, let's see. I heard sex. The webpage also looks like it's stuck in 1999. Wait, what? Wait, what webpage? Sex. We were talking about eighth house matter side. Then, well, actually, no. Eighth house and the fifth house actually talk about sex. All right, so planets in retrograde in 2019. Know how you'll be impacted. The retrograde planets in 2019 are Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, each targeting specific areas of life when retrograding. All right, let's find Pluto specifically. Okay. Oh, well, they got it right here in this area, at least. Pluto retrograde in 2019. Pluto, oh dear, here, and they just fuck it up in the first part. Pluto in retrograde makes everything more intense and influences people to analyze their self. It's also a period of time when everyone wants to be in control of everything. Therefore, when Pluto is in retrograde, natives should explore and evaluate what they need to have control over and what has to be let go. This is also a good transit for cleaning up the home. Between the 24th of April and the 3rd of October 2019, Pluto in retrograde in Capricorn will very helpful, probably supposed to say will be very helpful when having to analyze relationships or the role people are having in society and its structures. From a personal point of view, this will be a good time period to rethink the connections with the passion and power within. Furthermore, Pluto in retrograde in Capricorn will probably make men misogynistic and eager to rule by themselves. So that's not good. This wouldn't be a good idea because such energies can be very disturbing, especially during moments of such power. It will be a good time for allowing repressed emotions and things that have never been discussed to surface in order for some healing to take place. Well, all right then, enough of that though. Next up, we've got horoscopes.astroseek.com. Let's see what they have for us. Actually, I don't know if they have an article. They just have information of another kind. All right, then let's find something else. astrologyking.com. That's a lot more like it. It's a much more reliable source, in my opinion. Pluto retrograde, 24th of April, 2019. Serious business, it says. Oh boy. Pluto retrograde 2019 starts on April 24th at 23 degrees of Capricorn and ends on October 3rd at 20 degrees of Capricorn. The major influence on Pluto retrograde this year is Saturn conjunct Pluto, which means hard work and serious business. Before I talk about Pluto retrograde 2019 in more detail, you will find a description of Pluto retrograde in the natal chart, followed by the general meaning of Pluto retrograde in transit. So I think we're going to skip that because that's not quite what we're looking for right now. Let's see. Pluto retrograde in transit. This may or may not be relevant. Let's find out. Pluto retrograde in transit is a regular cycle lasting 5 months every year during the opposition to the sun. As with all outer planets, it causes less concern than the rarer inner planet retrogrades. Transiting Pluto retrograde is a time of reflection about power and control in your life. If people have controlled or manipulated you, then now is the time to let them go. If you have been too controlling of others or situations, then it is time to let go. This is not a time for power tripping, but a time for elimination. Faded events and repeating themes will reinforce which of your controlling habits, compulsions, addictions, or prejudices must be eliminated. Well, I know I, for one, I'm always sick and tired of people trying to control me, so this should be most advantageous, I do think, for me specifically. If you have been too smothering and controlling in a relationship, holding on too tight, then you may be forced to let go. If obsessive or compulsive behavior involving food or drugs has taken hold of your life, then events may force a turnaround. The more intense your destructive behavior, the more extreme the detoxification or withdrawal stage will be, such as going cold turkey. Yeah, I'm glad the site brought that up because, indeed, yes, Pluto is also purification, detoxification, cleansing, purging, releasing, that sort of thing. So you can expect not so much today, tomorrow, or the next day, but in the weeks and months to come, as this retrograde really gains momentum, you can expect that purification to take place as well. So let's see. Perhaps suspicion, secrecy, racism, gambling, or porn are taking control and holding you back from spiritual evolution. Trust in your spirit guides and think of the extremes your ancestors endured to have their genes expressed in you. Destroying things which have control over you will increase your spiritual power and lead to personal mastery. Fascinating. Let's see. This next section. Pluto stations retrograde on Wednesday, April 24th, 2019 at 2309 Capricorn. List below shows some minor fixed stars within orb of Pluto retrograde. Their constellations will have some influence on Pluto, but the most important influence on Pluto retrograde 2019 is Saturn conjunct Pluto, right? Okay, well, we don't need to go over all of those. Because indeed, as he rightfully said, the most significant planet or the most significant whatever is Saturn conjunct Pluto. Most important influence, that's how we put it. All right. Saturn conjunct Pluto. Saturn conjunct Pluto means hard work and serious business. You will need patience and determination as you face extra responsibilities with less time and resources to get the job done. You may experience loss, hardship, or disappointment as you learn what it is that you must let go of or change. If something is broken, you must fix it or throw it out. Immoral or unethical behavior such as lying, manipulation, or breaking the law would have serious consequences that would further restrict your options and freedom. This is a time for deliberate, well-considered change. This is a slow evolutionary process that builds new foundations on which to prosper in coming years. Yeah, so I would say that not only does that apply now, but it applies all of this year, and it's really, really, really going to apply in January of 2020. And just as another side note here that some may find more interesting than others, anyone who has perhaps an interest in technology will find interesting. Apparently, the support from Microsoft for the operating system that is Windows 7 ends in January of 2020. I think it's specifically January 14th of 2020, just 3 days after the perfecting of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. And so for those out there who are still using Windows 7, as I am, that is the day of reckoning. You might want to find another operating system by then. I know I certainly plan on doing so, but I'm probably going to stick to Windows 7 or stick with Windows 7 until the bitter freaking end because it's so good. Let's see. So my little laptop that runs Windows 8.1 is still okay. Yes. Windows 8.1, as far as I know, I mean, not that I'm an expert on these things, but as far as I know, is still okay. All right, I finished my coffee. Not bacon just popped in my head. I don't know what bacon means. But, all right, let's see. So I think we can probably wrap this up pretty soon because I think we're getting a fairly clear idea of the Pluto retrograde. Kind of want to do some more streaming tonight, but I'm not yet sure what I want to do, but we'll see. Refinery29.com, Pluto retrograde in Capricorn 2019 astrology meaning. This Pluto retrograde, it's time to face your shadow self, they say. Oh boy. By Erica W. Smith. Although Pluto has been demoted to a dwarf planet in astronomy, it still plays a big role in astrology as the ruling planet of Scorpio and the planet of transformation. Pluto retrograde begins on April 24th, but don't freak out. Pluto spends about half the year in retrograde. Oh god, there that is again in retrograde. And this retrograde will continue until October 3rd. So unlike Mercury retrograde, they got that right. Pluto retrograde probably, the fuck is this shit? Hang on, I just got like some pop-up that literally covered everything on the screen. Okay. So unlike Mercury retrograde, Pluto retrograde probably won't send your life into chaos unless you haven't dealt with your shadow. Cue the two Lapita Nyangas in us. Well, if Mercury is sending your life into retrograde, I mean, oh dear God, I am completely fucking up my words. If Mercury is sending your life into chaos when it goes retrograde, then my thesis is that you've already got resistance that you need to work on anyway. You know, Mercury retrograde hardly ever fucks me up. But this thing, though, that it says with Pluto retrograde, like it won't send your life in chaos unless you haven't dealt with your shadow. Well, I would say the vast majority of people have not dealt with their shadows. You know, I'm aware of this shit and I do my best to practice this shit, and yet I'm still dealing with my shadow regularly. I'm in therapy for once a week now these days. I mean, ye gods. And I'm still like, there's so much stuff to practice and process and purify and cleanse and detoxify from and purge and all this shit. Anyway, unlike Mercury retrograde's effects, which manifest as external forces, Pluto retrograde affects us on a subconscious level, explains Narayana Montufar, managing director of horoscopes for horoscope.com. Each year, when Pluto retrogrades, we are given an opportunity to dive beneath the surface to encounter and deal with our darkest psychic material. We are not being asked, but pushed to search and destroy whatever is blocking our personal growth. Yeah, I think those are good terms, but I would say search and purify. I would say search and transform. I would say search and release. I would say search and cleanse when we're talking Pluto and Pluto retrograde. Of course, if you're someone like me, and which means you're experiencing your Saturn return this year, then you're not just going to be pushed by Pluto retrograde, you're going to be pushed by your Saturn return to deal with reality, whether you like it or not. And of course, Pluto over my Mercury, if you've got Pluto over any of your points in your chart, which means if you got Pluto anywhere around, what is he in 23 of Capricorn, yes, then you're going to be pushed to transform in those areas, whether you're ready for it or not. So you have to look up your own chart for that. But so it's affecting some of us more than others. Also, by the freaking way, if anyone out there has planets around 23 of Cancer or 20 of Cancer, then this Pluto-Saturn activity is in opposition to those points, which means that all of this Pluto-Saturn stuff for you is going to play out in relationships. That's something very fascinating to consider in oppositions. So actually, I don't mean to keep talking about myself, but well, Mercury and Venus are in Aries currently. I have my Chiron at, where the freak is it? Oh, at 13 of Cancer. For some reason, I thought it was like 18. So, although, I mean, they're still going to, Saturn's going to backtrack. I think it said, 12 degrees or something. So, yeah, even if you have something like I do as early as 13 degrees of Cancer, you could expect, the stuff to play out in relationships, especially as I believe as Saturn gets closer to that point. So, it's so interesting. It's so much fun and so fascinating to look at this. Whenever there's an opposition, any kind of oppositional aspect, whether it's just or whether it's like in your natal chart, or it's a transit forming an opposition with a point in your natal chart, those tend to play out in relationships, whereas squares tend to play out as inner conflicts. I mean, I suppose ultimately it's all inner conflict, when we're talking about stressful aspects, whether it be a square, opposition, half square, semi-square, whatever. But oppositions especially, tend to play out as conflicts in relationships. So, fascinating stuff. So that was that last couple of sentences anyway, was also a quote from Narayana Montufar of horoscope.com. Now back to the author of this article. As for the effects of Pluto retrograde, she adds, oh, okay, now we're back to her anyway. Will it wreak havoc on our lives? It depends on how much each one of us has dealt with their own shadow material. Basically, if you have done the work, you will probably be okay. If you have not, you might be in for a ride. Or if you have a lot of trauma in general, even if you've been doing a lot of work, because I can tell you from firsthand experience, if you have a lot of trauma, even if you've done a lot of work, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there's going to be even more work to be done unless you've really, purified most or virtually all of that stuff. Purified, transformed, whatever. Really appreciate the live streams, Mr. Poetic. Thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you. I'm glad I looked at the chat at the time. You guys are talking so much, which I appreciate. Thanks that I'm missing half the comments, but I did see that one. So actually, it's funny. You guys, you're a Gemini and a Virgo, and both signs are ruled by Mercury, talkative, communicative Mercury, and you're literally making the chat more active than like any other of my regular viewers. So go figure, Mercury is just buzzing right along here. I love it. All the help and simple joy you've given me. Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to hear that, Ryan. I'm glad I could do that for you. That is good. If I can uplift just one other person out there, then that makes me happy. It's like let me help you as I help myself, I guess. All right, so where were we? Let's see. So it says, this means that, quote, the best thing you can do is face your dark side, whether it means getting closure on an old issue, opening up about your darkest secrets, doing healing work, going to therapy. Oh, that's me. Deal with it, or it will deal with you, end quote. Wow. Yeah, I have to say, and this definitely goes right along with Pluto retrograde. Because it's all about diving into the unconscious and dealing with the shadow and everything else that we've already been over. From my experience thus far, I would say if there's anyone out there who has considered or is considering or might consider getting therapy for help with your issues, well, I've had a mostly pretty much positive experience with it so far. And, I'm still slightly skeptical of it for my own reasons, but I would say, go for it, do it, try it. Yes, it's unfortunately true that not all therapists out there or counselors or psychologists, psychiatrists, whatever, are in it for the right reasons. A lot of them seem to be just in it for the money, but I think there's also a good number that genuinely care about helping people. And that's certainly the case with mine thus far. So yeah, in light of Pluto going retrograde, if as a result of this, you feel a significant activation of difficult issues that you feel like you need help dealing with, like if you're able to afford it, I would suggest at least considering getting help, talking to someone, talking to a professional, because when you talk to a professional, at least someone who really cares, it's a lot different than just like talking to a friend or family member about it, because this person is literally paid and trained to help you, to put all the attention and focus on you and your life and your issues and to help you get through them. So, again, I'm sort of skeptical of the whole mental health field because I think it might still have some false premises and issues it needs to work through. And that's for my own reasons. I believe that, maybe we get into that another time. But generally speaking, I'd say, yes, I find it to be a very positive thing. And I highly recommend it, in fact, from what I've seen thus far, if you think there's even a possibility that you need to talk to someone, you probably need to talk to someone. I came across this checklist in a book recently. Hell, maybe I can even pull it up. That would be appropriate. On if it's a book on shadow work. In fact, tarot shadow work is the name of it. that talks about like if you experience any of such and such, consider getting help. So let me see if I can just pull that up real quick. Read that to you guys. Let's see. Guess I need to remember I'm on page 49. All right. Let's see. Where is it? Where is it? No, that's not it. One moment. Swear I will find it. Okay, here we go. I think this is it. Let me just... Okay. The following is a checklist. Let's see how the author puts it. The average person has the capacity to live through emotionally upsetting situations and bounce back once they are over. It is important to recognize that occasional bouts of anxiety or tension are normal. While it may be unpleasant or painful, such anxiety isn't cause for alarm. So how can you know it is time to seek outside help? Ask yourself the following questions. So here we go. Here it is. Has my personality changed? Do people tell me I'm not myself lately? Am I having trouble coping with daily activities and everyday problems? Am I having strange thoughts or grandiose ideas? Do my ideas scare me? Has my anxiety level increased? Am I less able to tolerate change? Have I felt depressed or apathetic for a long period of time? Has there been marked changes in my eating or sleeping patterns, increased or decreased? Have I had thoughts of or talked about suicide? Have I devised a plan? Do I seem to be on a roller coaster of extreme highs and lows? Has my use of alcohol or drugs increased? Do I become defensive when someone mentions my use? Do I need alcohol or drugs to get my day started or to face stressful situations? Am I having financial trouble because of my alcohol or drug use? Do I feel a need to hide my use? Has my anger level increased? Do I have thoughts of hurting others or injuring myself? Do I hit, slap, throw, or break things in an angry outburst? That is the list. And then the author goes on to say, if you answered yes to any of these questions, outside assistance should be sought. So if you answered yes to any of those questions, according to this author, and I'm inclined to agree, outside assistance should be sought. And then they go on to say it may be useful to think of professional counseling as a service that specializes in helping people work out their problems. Your primary healthcare provider can help you decide if there's an underlying medical condition that needs professional attention. Go to a spiritual advisor of choice or call your local branch of the Mental Health Association. Many communities now have holistic health centers, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, and keep in mind, this is Christine Jett, that's the author's name, who wrote Tarot Shadow Work. And this this is like a very new agey spiritual kind of book, and even she is saying look, all this stuff that you're doing or that she is advising that people do on their own if they want to, this tarot shadow work, may not be enough. That if you answered yes to any of those questions, outside assistance should be sought, in addition to doing your own spiritual practice, your own shadow work or whatever. So, the point I'm wanting to make is even if someone of that predisposition is advising to get help under those circumstances, probably should be strongly considered. So I thought it very appropriate to throw that in there with the Pluto retrograde being a big topic right now. Now, I understand and I have much sympathy for those who can't afford it. The only reason I'm able to afford it is because it's covered under the assistance programs, Medicaid. So thank the gods for that. Otherwise, there's no way in hell I could afford such a thing. So yeah, I know that I know that mental health isn't taken seriously enough, especially in this country, in the United States. A lot of people can't get it because it's just too damn expensive. And then even if you can get it, a lot of those trained to help, unfortunately, are in it for the wrong reasons. They aren't actually interested in helping people. I know that's fucked up. And so I totally feel for and empathize for those in that position. But I'm just saying, if you can afford it, if you can get it in some way and you need to get it, well, I would strongly advise looking into it. Going to my local medicine women. Ah, cool. Sounds like a plan. Thanks, Poetic. You're welcome, Ryan. She can look in your eyes and tell you if you had a broken toe in your little... Well, that's crazy. Wow. All right, so now let us get back to more information on Pluto retrograde. And I think we'll probably wrap it up soon. Let's see. Where did we leave off? Okay. Pluto is in the sign of Capricorn, which means desires, both sexual and not, will resurface. Quote, the sea goat, while practical by nature, is an undercover freak in the sheets, end quote, explains astrologer Lisa Stardust. I will say, with Capricorn being a very earthy earth sign indeed, Capricorn and sexual energy go together strongly. Capricorn is also associated with the root chakra, so like the theoretically lowest vibrational chakra, that most aligned with the physical realm. So that should give you an idea of that sort of thing. Quote, desires will be reawakened as we are exploring past fantasies. Some may decide to manifest power, while others will opt to add kink to their stale routine. Pluto rules the underworld, often allowing us the option to embrace our devilish delights. During a planetary backspin, we can bring growth to areas where we are unsatisfied: relationships, sex, money, and work. Allowing oneself the chance to transform and awaken old yearnings will help soften the Plutonian energy, end quote. Seagoat. Yes, I mean, I guess, unless I'm mistaken, the sign of Capricorn, while yes, it's a goat, it could also be looked at as a sea goat. I've seen Capricorn depicted before, not as just a goat, but like a goat with like a fish sort of tail, which is interesting. So let's see. Make sure you don't get in any love triangles, though. Quote, the only thing to avoid is power struggles and triangular relationships, as these may cause more drama than necessary, Stardust adds. Creating balance and purging oneself of psychic drains will unleash past constraints that hold us back during this metamorphic transit, end quote. Astrologer Jessica Lenyadu notes that Pluto retrograde will especially affect people who have a planet in their birth chart in a position in which Pluto will transit that planet. Yes, indeed. Quote, if Pluto is hitting your chart in a way that either gives you a positive or easy transit or a more challenging transit, then you're really going to feel Pluto's retrograde, she explains. If you're not getting a transit by Pluto, you're not necessarily going to notice it. Yes, which again, as I've mentioned, I'm getting the conjunction with my Mercury. So my mind is, being transformed forevermore. Let's see. By the way, if either one of you, Ryan or Lumen, or both of you, want me to look at your charts and see how Pluto's retrograde might affect them briefly, I can do that if you want. Just say so, and I'll take a look at them. So let's see. However, Lanyadu adds, quote, retrogrades are always a good time to review and reflect, end quote, for everyone. Pluto is about transformation and profound developments, she says. When we experience Pluto, we're being asked to go deep and confront something that's really difficult to confront. So maybe something we have shame around or something that is taboo, end quote. I do. Yes, please, poetic. All right. Well, um, let's see. Lumen, I guess you were the first to say. So, Lumen, if you can give me your birthday, I can pull up your chart and we'll see how Pluto is likely to affect you. And then Ryan, you will be next. See, oh snap, I've been having crazy dreams this past few days. Oh, really, Liz? Interesting. I wonder if Pluto could affect that too. But yeah, Liz, if you want me to look at your chart too and how Pluto might affect it, you can be, I guess, in third place and you can give me your birthday and I'll take a look at that. All right, so as soon as I get Lumen's birthday here, I'll pull up her chart and we'll take a look at that. Because yeah, indeed, if you have any points in your natal chart that are around 20 to 23 of Capricorn, then this transit is going to affect you very powerfully. But it also affects you powerfully if you have points around, say, 23 of Cancer or 23. Let me just look here to make it easier. They'll be challenging if there are points around 23 of Aries or Virgo. They'll be easier and more supportive if there are points around 23 of Pisces or Scorpio. They'll be also harmonious trine if there are points around 23 of Taurus or Virgo. So, all right, thank you for your data there, Lumen. We're going to look at that right now. Yes, because this is obviously a key aspect of astrology is learning how does this stuff affect us individually, because we've already gone over quite thoroughly the Pluto retrograde in general. So now we're going to look into some specific chart data. August 1976. 4:20, give or take 15 minutes. Okay. 4:20 p.m. or a.m. Just gonna put in p.m. for now, but I can change it. Louisville, Kentucky. Okay. Don't want to hold you up, but if they're going quick, then sure, May 31st. Okay, thanks, Liz. Yeah, I'm sure we can look at yours as well. Okay. PM, okay, good. Let's pull this up. All right, let me take a look here. So I can already tell it's going to affect your Venus. That's one area. And let me just make sure here. Oh, and your moon. Okay. So here, I don't want to misspeak. So when it comes to your moon in Libra at 21 of Libra, Pluto is currently squaring your moon. So we're talking the idea of Pluto with all of its transformative, purifying, energy. We've been over that in an internal conflict with your emotions, your moon, also like your subconscious motivation, stuff like that. And so expect this retrograde to affect you specifically emotionally and perhaps present an inner conflict, but one that is ultimately leading to transformation and purification. So it may be challenging, but by the end of this transit, so by more or less January of 2020, Well, I don't know. It may last a little bit longer than that, I suppose. Probably by next year at this time, this transit will be complete, and you will have likely experienced a transformation of your emotions, or an emotional transformation, healing, purification, that sort of thing. So, as for your Venus, just pull this back up here at 25 of Virgo. That is, of course, that means that, well, Pluto is not quite going to reach that perfectly because it's going retrograde, did go retrograde at 23 of Capricorn, but it's still fairly close to a harmonious trine with your Venus. And so great power added to everything from your love life to your social life to your financial life, that sort of thing. So again, trines are harmonious, easier energy to work with. We're talking potency, power, transformation, cleansing, purification, all of that in the area of your love life, your social life, and your money life. The things that you like, the things that you enjoy. Now, because your Venus is a little bit further along at 25 of Virgo, this will affect you primarily, I would say, even more so like next year, maybe even into the year after that, perhaps. We'll have to see what Pluto ends up doing. But because, it's at 25 of Virgo rather than like 23 or 22, 21, 20 or whatever. So, but yes, that is coming also. All right, good. That's a relief. I'm glad that it's a relief. All right. Next up is Ryan. Okay, so I must admit the coffee has gotten to me yet again. I need to take a brief break, but I will be right back to look at you guys' specific charts. Okay, I've returned. Actually, Lumen, I forgot to see what house that's happening in, the Pluto retrograde. So let me just look at that real quick so we can be thorough. Let's see. So Pluto is going retrograde at 23 of Capricorn. You tell I'm not quite used to doing things in this way. In your first house. Your first house is from 26 of Sagittarius to 3 of Aquarius. Yes, so it's happening in your first house of self. So you can expect all of those first house matters, everything having to do with yourself, your individuality, your self-expression, your own interests, like your own, I want to do things my way or the highway kind of thing. Everything having to do with you personally is going to be emphasized and transformed. And of course, with Pluto being as slow moving as it is, I'm sure you've already been experiencing that for a number of years, as we all have in some area of our chart as a result of Pluto. But yes, you can expect more of that. All right. And now for Ryan. It's actually, yeah, Ryan, your chart is already saved in here, fortunately. But let me double check it as long as you gave the information again. June 1st, 1994, Edmonton, Alberta, 4 p.m. Okay, I actually have 4:30 p.m., but, well, that'll be close enough for our purposes. Okay, let's see. Let's see what we have here. Okay, I picked up one interesting area, another interesting area, and another one. All right, Ryan, for you, this Pluto retrograde is going to affect your North Node, your Neptune, and your Moon. Now, oh boy, it's affecting your Neptune more than anything. In fact, it's right. So this is interesting. Ryan, I mentioned earlier, like, how I'm going through quite the transformation right now of my mind because Pluto's over my Mercury. Well, that's the same thing with you, except it's over your Neptune. And so your Neptune is at 2259 of Capricorn, basically 23 of Capricorn. Pluto is going retrograde this year at 23 of Capricorn. So, Ryan, this Pluto retrograde basically has your name on it when it comes to Neptune things, just as it has my name on it when it comes to Mercury things. Now, Neptune is the planet of the non-physical realm, the spiritual realm, the supernatural, the mystical, dreams, illusions, imagination, creativity. You know, it rules Pisces, which is the sign that is very psychic, intuitive, perceptive, mysterious, emotional, that sort of thing. So all of those areas of your life, basically, are going to be transformed, and I mean transformed forevermore as a result of this powerful Pluto natal Neptune conjunction that you are experiencing this year. Because you see, here's the thing. Pluto, with as slow as it moves, it takes far longer than a human lifetime to go around the zodiac once. I forget the exact number, but I think it's, I don't know, somewhere in the area of like 200 years. So if Pluto does align with a point in your chart, it's always going to be a once in a lifetime event. So when it happens, it changes that area of your life forevermore for the rest of your life, as it is happening with me right now with my Mercury and communication. But for you, Ryan, again, it's happening with your Neptune. Now, what it's also going to happen with before too long is your Uranus at 2556 of Capricorn. I just want to mention this as well because it's very significant. So not so much this year, but probably next year, which I should be able to, oh shit, what did I do? I closed Planet Watcher on accident. Give me one moment. Pull that back up. It should be probably next year that it will align with your Uranus. Let me just see. 2459, 2556. Nearly so. Let's go another year ahead. Okay, well, it certainly does by another year ahead. Okay. So basically, let me try to fix this freaking window real quick. If you could only see what's happening behind the scenes right now, you guys. My screen's like a mess right now, kind of. Okay. Basically, what's going to happen with you, Ryan, is after this Pluto-Neptune conjunction that we're having this year, Like, you'll probably feel some of it next year and definitely by the year after that, but you will have a Pluto Uranus conjunction. And well, when Pluto aligns with Uranus, one's natal Uranus point anyway, well, Uranus is the rebel. Uranus wants freedom. Uranus is about individuality. Uranus is fighting for freedom. And Pluto is transformation and power. And so you can imagine, I would think, when Pluto activates and adds its energy, its potent, powerful Pluto energy to Uranus, which is all about the rebel, the freedom seeker, the individual. Yeah, you can imagine that's going to be a time in your life of you're breaking free like you have never broken free before. I guarantee you, believe me, I've studied this stuff long. I've seen it in practice. I know what I am talking about. Your life you will experience a level of freedom that you've probably never experienced before in your life, or at least perhaps not since, I don't know, if you felt very, very free, perhaps as a child or something like that, as I guess many of us do, maybe, not a level of freedom, not since childhood. But yeah, it's going to be intense. Just letting you know that, but a good kind of intense, but maybe stressful, but a good kind of stressful, I'd say. But again, right now, for the here and now, because that's what we sort of want to focus on the most this year, again, it's really about your Pluto-Neptune conjunction. And that's, again, transforming anything from spirituality to non-physical experiences to imagination to dreams, creativity, art, that sort of thing. Wouldn't say very free childhood for me. I see. Well, then expect the freedom that you're looking forward to really present itself in the next 2 to 3 years, I'd say, about 2 years more or less. Good news could be coming. Yes, indeed. I think so. I mean, let me think here. What else could we say about Pluto Uranus? You may find at the end of that transit that you have by then been established as a unique person, in whatever area of life that ends up being relevant for you. And let me just see here what house you have that in. You have, let's see, unless your birth time is actually at 4 o'clock, but your Uranus, we can be pretty sure, is in your 4th house. Give me one moment. One moment. Let's change this to 4 p.m. Okay, never mind. Whether it's 4 p.m. or 4:30 p.m. Hang on. Whether it's 4 p.m. or 4:30 p.m., this is occurring in your 4th house of home and family and your immediate environment. So this transformation, both what's happening this year and in the next couple of years, will be all about your home and immediate environment. Like where you live may change forevermore, or be transformed forevermore, or something about your immediate environment or your family, how you relate to your family, perhaps that sort of thing. But really, we're talking about like your home, your immediate surroundings. So yeah, look forward to that. And it's funny, this is the last thing I'll say about this, then we'll move on to the other parts of your chart that Pluto retrograde is influencing. But so I'm experiencing a Pluto Mercury conjunction right now. You're experiencing a Pluto Uranus conjunction right now. Uranus is literally a higher octave of Mercury. So we're kind of experiencing similar things in some ways, actually. It's just that for you, it's much more emphasizing freedom and individuality and rebellion and stuff like that. For me, it's much more emphasizing the intellect, communication, and stuff like that. So this is exciting stuff. I feel like I could do this all night. But anyway, oh, and by the way, Ryan, this is a little sort of off this topic, but I'm just noticing here, and I just happen to have this pulled up in my astrology program currently, that you have a Mars vertex conjunction. And I just started to look at the vertex recently, and I'm still coming to understand it, but basically the vertex has to do with one's destiny, I believe. And your Mars is conjunct it within 1 degree. So basically, what does that mean? Mars being aligned with your vertex, my strongest theory about it would mean that your destiny in this life is going to have a lot to do with Mars energy. So like aggression, assertion, action, taking action, motivation. It's funny because we're talking about Pluto tonight, but Mars is a lower octave of Pluto. Mars and Pluto are powerfully connected. Scorpio, the sign of Scorpio, has 2 planets ruling it. One's Pluto, the other is Mars. So it's interesting. Your destiny in this life is powerfully connected with Mars energy, just so you know. All right. So anyway, though, now speaking of destiny, we're gonna look at that slightly differently. Next, we're going to look at your life purpose with your North Node at 23 of Scorpio. So Pluto in its retrograde is currently forming a supportive sextile to your Scorpio North Node, your North Node in Scorpio. And so that basically means it's supporting your life purpose in a transformative way. So you can expect basically this year your life purpose to go through transformation, purification, power to be added to it. Your life purpose is going to be brought more and more into view, into prominence, into activation this year. So let's see. And interestingly enough, your Pluto itself, your natal Pluto, is at 26 of Scorpio. So again, this wouldn't be this year, and it wouldn't even really be next year. But by 2021, 2 years from now, you will have a natal Pluto sextile. So that will be activating all of those Pluto things in your life. You'll be going through a transformation when it comes to transformation at that time. All of those Pluto things, the unconscious, purification, detoxification, cleansing, power, sexual energy, all of these things we've been talking about. That Pluto energy in your life will be really strong in a mostly positive way, or at least an easy to work with way, about 2 to 3 years from now. So there's one more thing in your chart, and that is your Pisces moon at 19 degrees of Pisces. Wait, this year, poetic. The natal Pluto sextile, the transformation around that energy, no, that's in a couple of years. But let's see. So speaking of sextiles, this Pluto retrograde is activating your Pisces moon in a sextile, but in the opposite direction. And so similar to what we described with Lumen earlier, with her moon, you will experience this year a transformation around your emotions. Or I think it was Actually, I think with Lumen, wasn't it a square? Yeah, with you, Lumen it was a square to your moon. With Ryan, it's a sextile. So a sextile is easier energy to work with. It's supportive, and so it doesn't mean it'll be a walk in the park necessarily, but you can indeed expect your emotional life, your sort of subconscious drives and stuff like that to be given power and transformation and purification this year. Expect a purifying of your emotions. And that may be all the more so even with Neptune in there, Pluto being over your Neptune, conjuncting your Neptune while sextiling your moon and your north node. So should be quite interesting. Do hope this band goes somewhere. Well, this may be one hell of a time for it to go somewhere from what we're seeing here. Looks like generally speaking for you, Ryan, next couple of years, I mean, Pluto is activating all kinds of stuff in your chart. So next couple of years are going to be highly transformative for you. So let me see, is there anything else here? Oh, wait, there is one more thing. Okay, geez, I need to make sure I pay attention. I don't want to miss anything. Your midheaven, Ryan, is at 22 of Cancer, which means it will also be activated by this Pluto retrograde. Midheaven at 22 of Cancer. Well, your midheaven is your career, and this is directly opposite the Pluto retrograde, so it is indeed an opposition. And as I mentioned earlier, oppositions will tend to play out in the form of relationships. So your career is likely to go through a transformation this year, but, or maybe I should say, and specifically, that is likely to play out through relationships. So again, a transformation around your career this year that is likely to play out through relationships. Likely to play out through other people because it's an opposition. All right. Rent is $420 a month. Those are good numbers, I hope. All right. So yeah, Ryan, I'm not kidding you here. Pluto is affecting a lot of things in your chart. The good news is it's almost entirely, positive. Almost entirely easy energy to work with. So let's see here. So next is Liz. And I know it's been a little while, but can find her stuff here easily enough, I'm sure. Yeah, here we go. May 31st, 1991. Yeah, I think, hang on. I think actually her information is saved as well. In fact, Lumen's information was probably also saved in my program. I just needed to look for it, but oh well. So Liz, let's see, May 31st, 1991, Washington, D.C. Hang on. Okay, and 7:17 p.m. Yes, okay. Yeah, it's saved from the time I read your chart. Will I be keeping this stream public? Oh, yes, indeed. I'll be keeping this stream public so people can benefit from the Pluto retrograde knowledge. All right, so Liz, I hope you're ready because I'm about to look at your chart now and see how Pluto retrograde will affect your chart. Let us see. It's going to affect your North Node, your Mercury, your Chiron, your Venus. Wow. May affect your Pluto itself as well. I'll have to take a look at that. And let's see, wait. It'll affect your ascendant in the next couple of years. And it's taking place in your second house. So, all right, a lot to unpack here. So we'll begin with the most powerful thing that it's affecting, and that would be your North Node at 21 of Capricorn. So let me just see something here, though. Just how far back is Pluto going this year? Okay, it's going back to 20 of Capricorn. Okay. All right, let's see here. So when we're looking at Pluto aligning with your North Node, again, the North Node is your life purpose. And so you can expect, in fact, it's happening right now. It's been happening for you, and it's going to continue to happen this year. Your life purpose for this lifetime is being transformed forevermore this year. I kid you not. That is literally what is happening. This has not happened before in your lifetime. It will not happen again in your lifetime. Your life purpose this year is being transformed and given power forevermore. That is probably the single most important thing that this Pluto retrograde means for you in your chart. And that's why I'm mentioning it first, because it's the most important. As for other things, however, let us just see here. So your Mercury is at 22 of Taurus, and so Pluto retrograde will be affecting that. Let's see, Mercury at 22 of Taurus. Pluto's retrograde is forming a harmonious trine with your Mercury, and so you can expect a transformation around your communication this year. Your communication, your intellect, maybe even like commerce, short distance trips, that sort of thing. The word mercantile refers to Mercury. And again, this is a trine, a harmonious trine. So it's generally easier energy to work with. So Pluto, natal Mercury, trine, transformation around communication. Up next, let's see. So this next one, Pluto is almost reaching your Venus Chiron conjunction at 24 of Cancer, but not quite. Pluto's going retrograde at 23 of Capricorn. Venus Chiron, of course, your Venus Chiron is at 24 of Cancer. So it's almost there. But so I would say you'll probably feel a dose of this year, but you'll also feel it a lot next year. Now, this is an opposition. Pluto opposite your Venus Chiron conjunction. Expect transformation around the healing of wounds, around, helping other people heal their wounds so as to heal your wounds, transformation around Venus, everything from love to your social life to money, also beauty and stuff like that, your likes and dislikes. And since it's Venus Chiron, which is sort of like a love of healing or seeing the beauty in healing, expect a transformation, purification, all that Pluto stuff around this love of healing and love of healing wounds and seeing the beauty in healing and stuff like that. But to add one more element to all of that, since it's an opposition, expect all of this to at least tend to, if not be strongly likely to, play out through relationships. Again, because it is a Pluto natal Venus Chiron opposition. Expect this to play out through relationships, this transformation around the healing of wounds in yourself and others, all that, Venus Chiron sort of thing. So continuing on, let's see. Okay, so this would have been more like last year, but it did, Pluto did form recently a sextile to your natal Pluto at 18 of Scorpio. So, transformation and purification around transformation and purification, similar to the stuff we just went over with Ryan a little bit ago. But, that's sort of what you've already experienced. So that's largely over with, but I'll just mention it, just to be thorough, I guess. Thanks for this poetic. No problem. I am enjoying it immensely. So the final thing to note about this is that Pluto is going retrograde in your second house of money and interpersonal relationships. And so this isn't necessarily going to be anything new for you because your second house begins at 27 of Sagittarius, and therefore you've been experiencing this kind of Pluto in your second house stuff literally since, let me think here, like 2007, maybe even 2006. So this is nothing new for you, but you can indeed expect over the coming months that transformation around everything from money and finance to very close interpersonal one-on-one relationships to intensify transformation around those second house issues. And let's see, anything else? Yes, there is one more thing. And this isn't, again, we're jumping ahead a little bit here. This isn't really what's happening this year so much as what's happening in the next couple of years. But Pluto will sextile your ascendant, your Scorpio ascendant, in the next couple of years. And so we're talking transformation around your self-expression and how other people see you. And it's a supportive sextile, so it's easy to work with energy. And I would say Pluto sextile natal ascendant in the next couple of years, expect the way that you express yourself and the way that you are seen by other people to be transformed forevermore in this life. It'll be given power. The way that you express yourself and the way other people see you will be given power, potency, potent Pluto, and it'll never be the same for the rest of your life. So, big things happening for all of us here with Pluto affecting our charts in these various ways. If we're talking Pluto, we're talking big things always, huge transformations, life-changing, once-in-a-lifetime transformations. So that's about it for you, Liz. Hope you enjoy your transformation. Hope you and Ryan and Lumen, hope you all enjoy your coming transformations. I know I'm enjoying mine currently. Looking forward to that in a few years. Yes, indeed. It is something to look forward to. Thanks so much. You are welcome. So that is about expended all of my energy. I just get so passionate about astrology. Damn, I can do this all the time. But I guess I should probably end this stream soon, but I don't want to get off just yet. So I don't know, does anyone have any comments or questions about Pluto retrograde or anything astrological in the last moments here? I could answer those real quick and then I could get off because yeah, I just want to clear. If there's confusion about anything, I'd like to clear it up. So nice to see you, Happy Poetic. Thank you, Ryan. Well, see, the unfortunate thing is probably half the reason I'm happy right now is just because I had a cup of coffee. I was able to indulged, whereas I won't be able to do that for I don't know how many days because my body can't handle it these days. Welcome to being 29 years old and experiencing your first Saturn return. But yeah, I'm really happy right now because I've let myself have coffee because I really needed it. I was like desperate. Let's see. Does the fact that I'm an identical twin play into my chart at all? Quite possibly, especially since you are the sign of Gemini. Kind of funny, twins being born under the sign of the twins. But as for what that means astrologically, I don't know much about that area. I do know that twins are said to be deeply connected with one another. It's an interesting study, though. And thank you so much for the donation, by the way, Liz. That is very helpful. That helps a lot. It's interesting when we have identical twins to observe how, even though they have virtually the exact same astrological energy, each one still has the free will to choose how to use that energy, how to manifest that energy. So some people might say, oh, well, we're identical twins. I'm not saying this is your case or whatever. I don't know. I don't think you've ever said anything about this before, but some people will say, oh, we're identical twins, but we're so different. Well, there's a lot of wiggle room in how we choose to express the energy that we are born with. I will say that, but in other cases, you have twins that are quite similar. I've observed. Fuck you. I'm out. Oh boy. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, Lumen. But let's see. Already met you in different body, different place, different time. Oh, lovely. Hope everything worked out for you, darling. I think you're talking to Ryan. Interesting. Because my twin passed away shortly after birth, so I'm not sure what that means for me. Also, R.I.P. David Jr. Aw, I'm sorry to hear that. Twin passed away in utero. Huh. That's interesting in this sort of twin connection here. Well, your twin passing away shortly after birth. Yeah, I wouldn't know much about what that would mean potentially astrologically, or if it, I guess, means anything astrologically. But it is interesting to consider that, I guess, if you accept, what I believe, that there are souls who will come forth, who have to come forth, even in those who are born and then unfortunately die just a couple of days later or something like that, and it makes you wonder, like, why does a soul choose to do that, or a spirit, or however you want to look at it? These are oversimplifications, but why does the point of that wave of non-physical consciousness decide to enter a body that it's probably well aware is just going to reemerge back into non-physical after just a couple of days or whatever? But for whatever reason that does happen, and for whatever reason I would theorize that those points of consciousness are one way or another, well, I guess they would have to be a vibrational match to those lives. So there you go. So any other comments or questions on astrology or similar material before I head out? Maybe if I'm feeling up to it, I'll come back after a little while and do some live tarot readings for people. Mine is with me still, and it told me to get the fuck back up every time I'm a pussy. Oh my. So your twin is telling you like it is, at least. Well, that is very valuable too. Thank you again so much. Well, thank you, Liz, for being here. Thanks everyone for being here, and you're very welcome. Yeah, I've enjoyed this immensely. It's been a while since we got to do an astrology stream because, I had my own health issues and all that crap I had to deal with. And then we were sort of busy with other things, but so it's felt very good to do one of these again, and hopefully we can do one of them again soon. That'd be lovely, Poetic. Excellent. Well, hopefully I can do it then. I don't know. I might have exhausted myself with this stream, but we'll see. All right. So as for where we are right now, astrologically, the moon remains in Capricorn at 1355 of Capricorn, moving into a quincunx with Mars, frustration with taking action, but I'm sure we can all do it. So I think I'm going to head out. We can just chat on the stream, lol. That's true. Though I usually like to have to, or I usually feel like I need energy for that too. Unless you're talking to Lumen. I think you might be talking to Lumen right now. But regardless, thank you guys for being here. If I don't come back later, remember I'll be back on Saturday for a tarot card analysis stream. As long as a storm doesn't sweep in and stop me again like it did last Saturday, I'll be looking at the Four of Wands finally that we were sort of prevented, or I was prevented from by the storm on Saturday. Oh, you were talking to me? Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, chatting takes energy from me, sadly. Otherwise, I'd do it all the time. But hey, like if I have energy to do readings, then I'll have energy to chat. So I can do that too. But yeah, like if I'm doing live tarot readings, like one of those streams, feel free to come in and just chat. You know, why not? Keeps things interesting, sort of between readings and whatnot. So yeah, I'll be back on Saturday, you know, God's willing. And then I'll be back on Monday with another Seth stream. And I'll be back next Wednesday with probably more live tarot readings. And what I'm really going to try to do, and that'll be May 1st, so I know it's cutting it a bit close, but what I'm really going to try to do, I wanted to do this today actually, but I was like, I don't know if I have the energy for this today. I want to do monthly forecasts again, live monthly forecasts. And I was thinking today of doing that for the 4 elements, so fire, earth, air, water, rather than all 12 signs, since 12 streams in one day is a bit much, you know, even for me. But we could do just, you know, the 4 elements. That would work also. So that would just be 4 little streams. I was thinking of doing that today, but then I didn't feel up to it. So instead, I think we could do that on May 1st, as long as there's time and everything. So we'll probably do that in a week. And fortunately, it'll be the first of the month. So, you know, it's not like, even though it's a little bit later than I planned, like it'll still be at the very beginning of the month. We'll have the whole month ahead of us. So, yeah, that'll be cool. Thank you, Poetic. You are welcome. Those are fun. Glad to hear it. Yay, monthly forecasts. Yes, I love doing the monthly forecasts. It can be a little bit taxing energetically when it's all 12 signs, but just doing the 4 elements, I'm sure I am more than up to that. So thanks again, you guys. I really appreciate you being here. You know, keeps things very interesting and lively and exciting. And I'm going to head out now. If I don't see you again tonight, please have a great night wherever you are. And I'll be back soon one way or another. Bye for now.